You're listening to Wordslinger Podcast, episode 029, Podcasts on Fire with Brett Gajda and Nick Jaworski of the Where There's Smoke podcast. See what I did there?
Writing is difficult, but it is worth the effort. Kevin Tomlinson can help you develop a daily writing habit that will let you write your book, improve your website, and build or grow your business. Visit kevintomlinson.com and start writing now.
It's the Wordslinger Podcast, where story matters. Build your brand, write your book, redefine who you are. It's all about the story here. What's yours? Now, here's the guy who invented Pants Optional, Kevin Tomlinson, the Wordslinger.
Wordslinger.
Hey everybody, this is Kevin Tomlinson, the Wordslinger, and a while back, I got pinged on Twitter, and it led to something that sounded like this.
What's up, Doc?
It has been said by many, from Stephen Covey to Robin Sharma, that everything is created twice. First in the mind, and then
So that
in
is
reality.
the voice of Brett
And linked to
Gajda,
this, many
and it's
talk
not
about
This
how
American
everything
Life or
started
Radio
as
Lab or any of the shows you've probably heard of. It's a podcast called Where There's Smoke, and it's produced by Brett and by Nick Jaworski, who does the sound design on the show, and they do a fantastic job of actually creating this very high level, high production quality show. And I love the sound of it, but the content that's behind each episode was also amazing. So I had a chance here that really I rarely get, because Brett actually contacts me out of the blue and gives me a link to his show, which I get that sort of thing all the time. And I would have ignored it except for the follow-up tweet, where he actually referenced something that was on my Twitter profile, which was the whole pants-free gag, okay? And I think his exact words were, "I can neither confirm nor deny that I was wearing pants during the creation of this show." See, that did everything for me. That was the tipping point for me, because where I might have ignored the link he sent prior to that, I couldn't ignore the fact that he'd actually gone and spent some time on my profile, because now he's connecting to me in my language. So this was a great opportunity. I had to talk to these guys. I went and listened to the show. I got hooked. I went and listened to all the other episodes of the show. I went and signed up for the newsletter on their page, got on their mailing list. I did everything I could to be a part of this show. That's what I found myself wanting more than anything. My first instinct was, how do I become a part of this world? And I think that is exactly the sort of thing that we're all trying to do with all of our marketing. That's really the point of marketing, right? So I got these guys to agree to an interview. We set it up. We did it, less than a week later. So in just like a week's time, we went from not having any knowledge of each other at all to having a great conversation. And I have to tell you up front, Nick's audio on this side, on this podcast, is a little, it's not so great. And that's only because he had some difficulty. There were some technical difficulties. He just moved into a new place. There was construction going on, so what he had to do was get on a cell phone and go down to the beach. Poor guy. And he's hanging out on the beach, and we get to hear cars and other odd noise going by. So you'll have to kind of listen around that. I apologize. Actually, it's not all that bad. I'm probably making it sound a lot worse than it is, but he was very conscientious about that and wanted me to put something in the show that demonstrated the sound quality of their show. And so that's what that clip's all about up front. But it was also a great way to introduce this idea, because I love how this all unfolded. It was brilliant. And I got to tell you, I'm a little jealous of the quality of their show. And I work really hard, really hard to produce this show each week, and I want to make it as high quality as I can. I want it to provide the most value that it can. And I think I got content nailed. I really do, because the people I talk to, they're absolutely brilliant. I'm friends with most of them now. I keep going back to them. We talk to each other about everything, about advice, our businesses, whatever we need. So we've become this network for each other. And I love that. I love that we're connecting that way. because that actually gives me more value, but it'll bring more value to you too, because now I have this ever-growing bubble of influence that I can draw on, and that I can, I can turn to them for the answers to any questions you guys might have. So speaking of which, if you do have questions, and I mean, it could be about just about anything. I am a writer by trade. I'm an author and a blogger and a podcaster. And, if you want to know about any of those topics, like you want to know how to write a book, or how to get started writing a blog, or just how to develop a daily writing habit to either define or grow your business, then come check me out. If you go to wordslingerpodcast.com, it'll take you to the same web portal as the rest of my site, and you can click on my consulting or coaching button. There's some things changing, but you'll be able to find it. Just look. And you can also contact me directly from there. You can email me, and I'd love to sit and chat with you. I offer a free 15-minute consultation where we can talk about what you really need and the sort of thing you're trying to develop, and we can just figure out whether or not sessions with me might be helpful, because sometimes they're not. I occasionally talk to people who I realize, I can't help you. I can't help you. My service, my coaching or consulting isn't the right service for you. It's not worth you spending the money, but I'll help you every other way I can. And usually I end up moving them to someone who can help them, or giving them advice they can follow, or something along those lines. So I'm real good about that. So look me up, and if there is something we can do together, I got pretty good rates now. I just lowered the rates. So, basically just because I could, decided, I don't know. I just decided to. It's one of those whims we all wake up with every now and then. I'm going to make less money today. So speaking of making less money, though, I have a Patreon campaign that's set up that's to help me support this podcast habit I've developed. And if you are interested in what I'm doing here, if you find value in what I'm doing here, it would mean a lot to me if you'd go check out that campaign and, pledge $1, couple dollars each month, or, as much as you want, really, but it goes all the way down to $1, and that's really a low price to pay for what I think I'm offering here. So you'll never have to pay a dime for the podcast ever. I mean, it's always going to be free to listen. So if you don't have the cash, or you don't really feel like contributing, I understand. But if you do find some value here and you think you'd like to keep it going, it'll help me free up time if I can start making a little on the side for this. So go check that out. If you go to wordslingerpodcast.com, you can click on Fund Me in the menu, and it'll take you straight to the Patreon campaign page where you can make a pledge. And I appreciate it. And the people who have pledged, you are my heroes. Thanks so much for your support. I'm glad that you find value in the show, and I want to keep giving you that every week. So we're going to keep doing that. And that's pretty much it for all the housekeeping stuff. So what I want to do is jump right to this interview with Brett and Nick from the Where There's Smoke podcast. And I hope you love it as much as I did. I had an absolute blast talking to these guys. I can't wait to do more with them. Can't wait to talk to them more. And if you do like this interview, go check out their show. Go to iTunes and subscribe to that, and rate that and give it a written review, because that helps them a lot. I want to see them succeed at this. I want to see them grow at this. And while you're there, hey, surf over to the Wordslinger podcast and give me a few stars and a written review, because I need this podcast to do well too. So go check that out. And now I give you Brett Gajda and Nick Jaworski of the Where There's Smoke podcast. Hey everybody, thanks for tuning in and checking us out. And today we're going to talk to a couple guys. You know what? I actually started listening to these guys because they pinged me at random on Twitter, I'll be honest. And that was kind of cool, because suddenly I found, kind of kindred spirits in a way. And once I started tuning into their podcast, I was hooked, man, because this is... if you listen to this podcast, you've got low expectations, I think, because you could be doing a lot better. But today we're going to talk to Brett, I'm sorry, man. Brett Gajda and Nick Jaworski. It's these sound effects from Nick's beach trip that are throwing me off.
Oh, sorry.
No, I'm just kidding. And I think you guys purposefully chose last names that were going to make it tough for a word slinger to say on air, frankly.
That's right. You want to be a word slinger. You better prove it.
These guys are the producers of the Where There's Smoke podcast, which you can listen to on iTunes. You should go listen to on iTunes. Go find them, listen, and you will be compelled to rate them and give them stars and give them a review. I reviewed you guys, and I just realized when I did it that my username on there is Hat72 instead of my name, like normal. So I didn't get the street cred. That's unfortunate.
Oh, man. Actually, to be honest with you, Kevin, I knew it was you because you mentioned being a word slinger, and I saved the shout out because I'm going to give you the shout out after when I know the show's going to air, so I can get you some more listeners.
What? All right, we'll
What? Of course.
All right, we're going with that. So, how are you guys? I'm a big, huge fan of your show now because I listen to I've already listened to every back episode. And so I'm really impatient with you. So get on the ball. But let's open up and talk about that. Like, what was it that inspired this show? First, let's introduce you guys. Why don't you shout yourselves out? And since you're both on different mics, people will know who you are.
Yeah, sure, man. So I probably sound a little bit better. You might notice I sound like a sexy nerd god, but that'll come up later.
Yes.
My name's Brett Gajda. I'm the producer. I'm also the host of the show, and then I'll let the magical Nick introduce himself.
This is Nick Jaworski, and of course, again, Brett and the sexy nerd god voice. Every time you say it, I'm more convinced that you wrote it. But I do magical things with editing and production and whatever else.
So you're now. I want, in full disclosure, and I kind of mentioned this at the top of the show, but Nick's hanging out on the beach right now, living
God,
La Vida
that makes his
Loca.
life sound amazing.
I'm going to keep doing it too. I think that we're going to give everybody the right impression of Nick by the time it's all done. Beach bum that he is. So
That's right.
So tell me, how did this start? How did you guys start the podcast? It's a very NPR style podcast, by the way.
Yeah.
For those who have not heard it, it's brilliant.
Well, obviously, it started initially when I washed ashore, a castaway,
Yeah.
and there was Nick on the beach, right? That's
Oh,
how it
God.
started.
You rubbed a bottle, and suddenly Nick pops out.
So I'll start the story only because the story does start with me, right? So we just did an episode.
Wait a minute. Time out. All stories start somewhere, Brett. I mean,
That's true.
the
Okay, the story starts
at
in
my
Nick's
birth.
mother's womb.
42 years ago.
Yeah, I'm older than you, so doesn't it have to at least start with me somewhere?
Oh, it all starts back in the single-celled organism. But anyway, go ahead.
That's true. All right. So there was a Big Bang, and well, maybe
Sure.
we don't know, or God created us, something. All right. So as far as Where There's Smoke, that I believe started with me, unless Nick was psychic, but it's hard to say. So I initially had the idea a couple years ago. I'm a professional speaker and a facilitator. I've been working in self-development and business development for 10 years. The last 5 years, I've been working with a lot of big corporations. And I had always wanted to get my voice out there as me. So everything I've been doing in the last 10 years prior to this, Kevin, was under other people's umbrellas. So it was, I was the speaker, I was the presenter, but it was someone else's brand, someone else's material. Sure, I was bringing a little bit of myself to it, but I was constrained by the fact that I had to be respectful of whoever I was, working for, so to speak, right? So I always knew that I wanted to do something on my own. I like to be an educator and an entertainer at the same time. I kind of joke on our website that I'm finally fulfilling the fact that my high school class said I'd be the most likely to replace Johnny Carson. So there was always this idea of could I educate people and inspire people and teach, but also kind of be a little bit of Jimmy Fallon. Not that I'm anywhere close to Jimmy Fallon, but could I do both of those? And I could do them a little bit when I did keynote speaking on stage. I could be entertaining, but could I find some sort of vehicles? So I'd been trying to figure it out for a couple of years, and actually 2 years ago, this idea came to me, more than 2 years ago now. And as I would walk around talking to people about, I would go to events and people would ask me what I did, and I would give different answers because I wanted to see what stuck. And I had this tagline forever. So I said to people, well, I have this idea to create a show called Where There's Smoke, and I'm going to look at self-development through the filter of current events, sports, and pop culture. And I'd basically say, I'm going to take something in the real world that happens, use it as a launching pad and a teaching point, and kind of bring in all these clips, and it'll kind of be like The Daily Show. Yeah. So I thought initially it might be a video, show because that was the only reference point I had. And every time I told people that, it stuck. And people would come back to me 6 months later and be like, oh, you're the Where There's Smoke guy. So I knew that was the idea, but I just didn't really know how to do it.
Yeah.
And then basically a year ago, well, not even a year ago, sorry, like November, I kind of had this epiphany, which is a really silly epiphany, which was that I was making videos and trying to do other things. And I thought, why am I doing all that when what I do, like the way that I absorb the most of my information is podcasts.
Yeah.
So why aren't I making a podcast? So then I thought, well, I should make Where There's Smoke a podcast. But in my brain, I was like, I knew what I wanted to do. I knew it would sound basically like it sounds now, in essence anyways. And I thought, man, the person I would need to find to do that, because I have no technical skills whatsoever, right? So the person I would need to find to edit it and help me do it, I didn't really know, Kevin, but I thought it'd probably cost me $500 an episode. Yeah. And I didn't have $500 an episode. I didn't have $1 an episode. So here I am thinking that, like, I want to make this show, but I can't really afford to do it, and I don't have the skills to do it on my own. And this person that I want, which is this like magical person who loves Radiolab, loves This American Life, is interested in people's self-development, has some of the same kind of values as me. Like the odds that this person exists, are probably slim to zero. And if I find them, they're going to be so awesome, I'm not even going to be able to afford to pay them. So I should probably just give up. And instead, what I did is I thought, well, let me just see if they exist. And then once I know they exist, then I can figure it out from there. So I put an ad on Elance and kind of to see if they would exist. And then I heard a podcast that sounded kind of like what I wanted to do. And at the end of the podcast, they said this was produced by Nick Jaworski at Podcast Monster. And I went, oh my God, I got to talk to that guy. So at that point, maybe I'll see what Nick's impression of the story was.
So that's where Nick, a.k.a. your Ed McMahon,
oh no, he is way more than he is more my Lauren Mike than he is.
Oh, okay, you're Lauren Mike. Yeah, I could see that.
I like that. I like
that. So Nick, you come along at the tag end of the Elance approach, and when I first heard that, I actually thought, Brett, that you guys met through Elance, but you're saying you contacted him after hearing another show.
I contacted him directly. Now, when we started talking and I explained to him what I wanted to do, it sounded familiar to him, and he said, I just responded to your Elance ad.
Okay. Oh, hilarious. Yeah. So, Nick, all right, you've responded to the Elance ad. What happened?
Well, it's first of all, it was really nice. I'm used to developing shows myself, and so it was nice to have someone call me up and have an idea, and I just told Brett the other day. I remember exactly where I was standing when I was trying to walk around outside, actually. I remember where I was standing when he told me, like, I have this show, it's called Where There's Smoke, self-development through the lens of current events, sports, and pop culture. And I was like, yep, all right, this sounds good. And there's this negotiation, though, where I was at a period of my life where I was trying to make sure that I wanted to do cool projects, but I also had to make money. Yeah. So Brett's right. Like, the cost of somebody producing a show like that, I mean, the amount of hours it takes to do one episode is a lot. Yeah. And so it was this investment of time versus, like, I would love to do it, but I always found myself in projects where, I would give too much time because I just wanted to do it, and then I wouldn't make any money, which is great. And sometimes you got to follow your bliss. Yeah. But it worked out that I had accepted a position actually in Marin County, just north of San Francisco, and I was trying to figure out where I was going to live. And sort of through a couple phone calls, I was like, "Hey, Brett, like, you can find me a place to live. I'll just do it for free."
Nice.
And which really worked out in everyone's benefit, I think.
Yeah.
And so over time, so then it kind of I came out in January. We produced those 3 first episodes rather quickly. And I was living in his office right next to the room, and we make magic every week, right?
Ooh, that sounds like I should cue Barry White.
Oh no! Don't cue Barry White. We might get sued by the gay family. I'm pretty sure they're convinced everybody stole everything.
Yeah. So, all right, you guys. All right. So I will attest, by the way, that it is there's a lot of time that goes into, and my podcast is pretty organic because I knew how much work it would take to produce it at the level of quality you guys are doing. So it already takes me, a few hours a week to do the show. So I applaud you on the effort that goes into that.
Well, and Kevin, I'll just say, like, one of the funny things about both of us, and we share this, and this is where we work well together, is we do both really, really care about the details.
Yeah.
And I said in a shout out a couple episodes about Nick, I said, he'll spend 20 minutes trying to get the reverb just right on something, right?
Yeah.
And like this week's a great example. This week the show was done. It was finished. It was uploaded to Libsyn. It was complete. And he's listening to it, and I do a little shout out in the credits to someone who gave us an iTunes review, and they said, "I look forward to Tuesday. Every day is like Christmas."
Yeah.
And Nick's like, "There should be jingle bells there." So he literally put, like, you hear like ching, 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 4 jingle bells. He put 4 jingle bells there, squeezed everything out, put them in, and then re-uploaded the whole show. And it took him probably half an hour. And he knew from the minute he had the thought, he's like, I'm about to spend 30 minutes doing this. Should I do this?
Yep.
And I'm like, what do you want to do? And he's like, if I don't do it, every time I hear it, it's going to bug me because I'm going to think there should be jingle bells there.
Okay, I must have somehow caught that show before the jingle bells because I did not hear jingle bells at the end of the episode.
They're definitely in there. It was scheduled to publish.
I see.
And actually, and Brett and I we say this a lot, where like there's a lot of time is spent making sure, like, there's a lot of, I don't want to say this, things that maybe go unnoticed by a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
But the hope is that, and I think this is true for a lot of people, the hope is that so there's an authenticity that rings through the effort.
Yeah.
So, for example, like, you've got 5 jingle bells in there. For the people who catch it, they're going to think, like, oh, that's cool. Or, for example, just because it's on our minds, obviously, our show description for this week for our episode on questions is entirely composed of questions.
Yeah.
And things like that, where most people won't catch it, but for the people who do, I always like to watch TVs and movies where I get to really think about process and think about, like, why did they do this? And like, oh, like, that's really deliberate, that's really cool. And so I think we try to craft each episode. Going into each show, there's a discussion about, like, what is the shape of the episode? What are we trying to say? How are we going to do that? And so, yeah, we spend, it was 1 a.m. and I was uploading jingle bells, and it was worth it. And I heard it yesterday, and I was like, I'm so glad I did that.
Nick, what was that quote? I think your brother said it, and I really liked it. It was something along the lines of, they may not hear it, but they'll feel it.
Yeah, he said, he's like, I have another personal podcast that is on hiatus because I don't have time. But I remember I did this episode where I was really just trying to, like, fire and really get into, like, every music choice, every cue, every word was really highly thought through, and then no one noticed it. Like, I did this episode that I was, like, super proud of, and not a single person said to me, like, oh, I really like how you can make these connections and blah, blah, blah. And my brother Kenny...
That's just the price of creative, man.
Sure. Well, yeah, so my brother Kenny, who's a musician, a composer, pianist in New York, he just texted me, and he said, they may not know it, but they're going to feel it. Like, you'll feel the care that goes into an episode well before you spend any time noticing it.
Yeah.
So it's a nice guiding principle to have, and we strive, time allowed, to make that happen for each episode.
And I'll tell you, as a listener, that it does come through, man. I mean, I absolutely love the show. It's right up there with This American Life and shows like that I enjoy. I mean, it's beautiful. I mean, I loved it from the first, like, 20 seconds I heard it, I knew I was a listener. So you're doing a
And I just want to say,
job.
Kevin, you're like this really cool success story for me, because I did something I'd never done before, and I told Nick after I did something last night I think really worked, which was, there's hashtags on Twitter.
Yeah.
So I just went on Twitter one night and I, like, put hashtag This American Life. I think I put, like, self-development, and one person came up. And then I put, like, hashtag This American Life, hashtag Radiolab, which are 2 of our biggest influences, Radiolab being mine, This American Life being Nick's. And I can't remember which combo you were. I only did, like, 3 combos.
Yeah.
But one of them brought up a bunch, and I think it was Radiolab, This American Life. And then I saw all the tweets that referenced those, and I just put a short tweet that just said, hey, if you dig this, you might dig our show.
Yeah.
And I've always had this philosophy that for everything I do, if just one person if it makes a difference to one person,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Then you never know the ripple effect of that.
Right.
And so, like, when I did that, it was like, well, if one person listens, great. And like, not only did you listen and love it, which would have been way more than enough for me, but then we actually became like pretty fast friends online, joking around, and now here we are talking. And so you're just this really cool success story for me. I'm like, oh, that worked.
Yeah,
like
that's awesome.
The power of connection. It's great.
And what you did that really, because I get pinged by people with links and stuff all the time. What you did that really sealed the deal for me, though, was you actually took the time. You looked at my profile. You saw the joke about being, pantsless.
Oh, that's right.
And you commented on that. and I'm like, dude, if you're going to spend that kind of time, then I'm going to go listen to your show for at least 20 seconds. And then it was...
That's right. Yeah, you had a comment about pantless, and I put a second tweet that said, I can neither confirm nor deny that I wear pants while recording the show, which, if you've never heard it, there's a great Radiolab episode about that phrase. About where that phrase, it's really awesome, but where that phrase, I can neither confirm nor deny, comes from, it's fascinating. So there was an Easter egg kind of in my thing here too.
You guys are all about the layers.
That's right.
So,
which, by the way, I can actually neither confirm nor deny if Brett wears pants. I would know. I'm the only person who can say, and I feel like as an industry secret, I should not reveal that.
I can confirm that I do not wear pants most of the time. 98% of the time. It's become. What's funny about
now?
that? I am not wearing pants now. No.
Oh my
God.
God.
Okay. There's that line. Okay. We'll stay on this side of the line. So
you can't go back. The mind thinks in pictures. There's no going back.
That's my special gift to the audience, because the great thing about podcasting is that we're in their head right now. You've got nowhere else to go, buddy. That's pants free right there in your brain. So, man, I had a whole other question I was going to ask, but I can't remember it. So I'm going to ask this one. So do you guys do like production meetings, regularly, or how frequently do you do that sort of thing to decide how you're going to do this?
So Brett, do you want to talk about this?
Or should we both just laugh?
Silly words.
So I will say that we are in the ongoing effort to create more structure around our show. We definitely... the first few episodes, I would say, up to the first, let's say, 5 or 6, it was total fly by the seat of their pants. And I would say for those first 5 or 6, it was, as far as the writing process, it was mostly me. And then maybe Nick gave me some tweaks. We started trying to, in an effort to create more structure and knowing that we were going to need it, we had this, it was, okay, we're going to do a production meeting Wednesday night where you tell me the idea. Then we'd love to do a read-through on Friday, where I can actually hear it, because obviously it sounds a lot different than when you read it. We have never really stuck exactly that schedule, but I will say in probably the last 3 episodes or so, 4 episodes, like Nick's been way more involved. Like this episode this week on questioning, it completely transformed. What I was initially opening with, even like the core of what I was talking about, once I pitched it to Nick, which is now kind of what it's become a little bit. It doesn't feel like a pitch because but it's not like he's going to buy the skit or not. But it does feel like, hey, you're the listener. This is what I'm going to say. And this is why our partnership works really well. While he's so much more than an editor, he's like, no, that doesn't work, or I don't understand that, or I think this would be even better. So we're definitely now... We've got it to the point where we're collaborating well. We still haven't really quite figured out a way to be better about the structure of that collaboration, so we're not uploading episodes at 1:45 a.m. on Monday night, which is what we tend to be doing.
Yeah, and fortunately, Brett came out in that first episode. Brett is listening. Is that the first episode that we actually did?
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's not the first one we did. The first one we did was the On Time Is Late, Tom Brady.
Tom Brady.
Off to Tom Brady. But the first episode that we listed in the show, episode 1, was listening.
Well, yeah. So luckily, I remember I got that first. We had to do like a pilot episode. From across the country. I was in St. Louis at the time, and when I heard this, I don't think I got a script. When I heard the audio, I was going, "All right, well, this is going to be awesome." And I've been fortunate. Brett comes with such great ideas, and he is always sort of firing at a level of like pop culture references, even if some of them are a bit dated. War Games.
No, dude, I caught on to War Games right away. I'm like, I love that movie, and the
I don't know.
Ace Ventura, I caught that one too.
Nice.
It's actually funny. I'm only picking on War Games because I know it, but there have been times where he's had to explain to me some of it. But
Like that House of
it's
Pain have a connection to being Irish, like
Yeah.
that.
Okay, I still did not figure that one out. I didn't.
See, Brett?
The MC for House of Pain is named Danny Boy. People.
Okay, all right.
I'm not saying he's Irish. I'm just saying he's named Danny Boy, and there's a 4-leaf clover on the front of their album. That's all I'm saying.
All right, I got you. I feel you. All
Yeah,
right.
but do you see what I deal with? See,
But people
no,
do.
yeah,
That's the kind of stuff that happens around me all the time, though. No one ever gets my references, so I'm cool. I'm with you. I'm on it.
but again, I do think there's only been a couple times where I've told Brett like that's not going to make any sense. But because part of that, I'm sorry, there's a lot of cars going by. I'm just going to let people walk by. Sorry, everybody. Maybe something that we should explain for what's happening. I don't know if you're going to edit this out or not. Is that up until yesterday, I lived with Brett. I just moved out. And so now there's construction everywhere around me, and I'm trying to avoid all of it by walking along the beach.
What a shame.
Hey, I just want to stress
You know.
because some people might be like, I'm not going to start listening to this show if I know that it's just going to end like it's going to be like it's going to be like Firefly. Like
Yeah,
I don't want it to.
I want to
Firefly.
thank you guys for saving all the sound quality.
He's left, but we haven't, our partnership is not broken up. We're still making the show. He just, for those of you who know who've listened to the show, you might know the story that Nick, as he mentioned, he came and lived with me for a while. So now he's left. So everything's fine, kind of. But
well, yeah, I
did
think
me
Brett.
yesterday.
I think Brett's taking it harder than me. No, but I will
Because
say
you're
that
on the
thinking about
beach. Of course I'm taking it harder than you.
So thinking about sort of production and sound quality. So I got this original skit or script and audio. And we had to piece something together, but pretty quickly I was really excited to have like emotional and an intellectual space to deal mostly with production, which is really nice. And I think if I'm Brett, I'm assuming that Brett is really happy he doesn't have to think about how he's going to get anything done outside of recording and writing.
Yeah, and I think the other thing is too, and this is where it comes to like finding the perfect person. Like all I need to do with Nick is say something like, okay, so here I'm going to say this, and then I thought it'd be really cool to have this Die Hard clip, or here I'm going to say this, and I thought we could have a couple of quotes there, and then he both has the creativity, and the understanding of what I'm saying to make it happen. Whereas if I was working with just a person who had the technical skills, I'd have to be like, okay, so we're going to put Die Hard here. And what I think would make sense is if 5 seconds before I stop talking, start fading it in underneath, and then you hear it, like all that stuff. I don't have to do any of that with Nick, right? And frankly, 90% of that I probably wouldn't even think of. Like I just know that I can just have an idea, and then he can not only execute the idea but actually make it better. And that's why what I knew, like when I set out to find the person to make the show, I just did not think I would find a person. Like it honestly, Kevin, it's kind of crazy to me. It's crazy to me that that the person existed. It's even crazier to me that he was coming to California for 4 months and like we managed to make this all work.
Yeah.
It literally is insane.
Talk about serendipity. I mean, you guys, it all timed out just right for both of you, I guess, huh?
Yes, I would definitely say it. I'm really excited to be able to go back to St. Louis in a month or so and have a project that I can really think, like we all got to make money.
Yeah.
And I'm very happy I do podcast editing. And I do love those working with clients directly. But it is kind of a slog where you're just editing shows hour after hour. But then when I get a new script, I can talk to Brett, and I get the chance to really just like, oh, what are we going to do this week? Like I'm looking forward to having that as an outlet. Hopefully not at 1 a.m. on Monday night. But if it has to be that, then it'll still be that.
So, what do you think is the kind of secret to a good partnership when it comes to something like this? Because I'll be honest with you, your story is similar to what I have a business partner named Nick, also Nick Thacker, and we met because I actually went to him. I was adding coaching to my business, and I hadn't really spent much time with coaches, and so I went to him for coaching among a few others. And so that's how we met. And then we started collaborating on things together. So I know how he and I formed our partnership. It was kind of serendipitous too. But, how do you maintain that good partnership?
I don't know.
No, I'm
Are we
going to
gonna
let
fight?
well, No, I mean, I always have something to say. So I actually had a moment there where I was like, I'm going to let Nick be the first one to talk.
Okay, well,
really
I'm
cool.
on the phone. The audio editor in me is going like, I'll just wait so we don't have people talking over each other. But I will say that for Brett and I, and we it hasn't always been perfect, but for the most part, like I don't think that we're only focused on the ideas.
Yeah.
And nothing that's happened, and I hope Brett knows this. I mean, my respect for what he's doing is through the roof. And to be able to, my biggest concern is keeping him in a space where I feel like he has time to keep writing without losing his mind.
Mm-hmm.
But for us to be able to go like, here's an idea, I love you, I don't love this idea. And it's like we always are focused on the listener experience. So I don't think this idea is going to say what you think it says. I don't think this is going to really hit the way you want it to hit. Let's try to refine. And like, I've never left a conversation with Brett feeling unheard or somehow disparaged or hurt.
So
yeah, I think
sorry,
if I can just chime in, is that okay, Kevin? If I
go ahead. No, absolutely.
Because I think all the other stuff aside, which we talked about, right? Like obviously there's just the collaboration of skills and all that. It is, I've been, when I was younger, I mean, I'm still a musician, I guess. Nick's a musician too. And when I was younger, I was in a band, and like I would always say being in a band is like, I was in a 4-piece. So being in a band was like being married to 3 people. And it was a freaking lot of work. Because it's hard to like keep every relationship and that's a really hard thing, a partnership, because it's usually not the artistry that breaks you apart. It's usually the personalities and the egos. And I think that's something that we do really well. This week's episode, we talked about questioning, and I mentioned that the first question Nick asked to me when I called him was, what are you trying to achieve at the show? But the other question, and this was in the original script, and it kind of ended up getting edited out for time. We talked a little bit about how we create the show, and this question that Nick has that I love, which is, he's like, does this make the listener feel cared for? Like, it's one of his big things. Like, even when we crafted the show and formed the show, he's like, I want to make sure that at the end of every episode and during every episode, the listener feels cared for.
Yeah.
And so I know that's his driving force. So anytime he says something to me, even if I'm like, God, you're taking out an idea I really love, or you're saying something I don't really want to hear, I know that he's only saying it because he's representing the listener feeling cared for. And yeah, we have those moments a lot. Like this week we had one where he, I always joke now that like as soon as Nick says I have an idea, what I hear is here comes a lot of work, right? Because usually when he says I have an idea, it means I've got to scrap a quarter of the script and write another half, right? So in those moments, what Nick's also really good at is he lets me have my emotions. He knows they're not personal as well. So he'll like say these things, and part of me is just like, F you, man. God, I can't, and then I walk away and then I do what he suggested, and then I come back and it's better, and I go, hey, not only thanks for the idea, but thanks for like letting me have my emotional reaction about it and being cool about it. It's really unique, man. I got to say, it's cool for me as an artist, because it's been a long time for me since I was in a band, which at this point, dating myself is 20 years. It's been a long time for me since I've collaborated like this, and it's a different animal.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I will say though, I'm sorry to cut you off, but that I
cool.
think that in those moments, I was a music teacher in a former life, so there's a lot of, I'm a little bit used to sort of dealing with the creative process, but I also know that, I don't think Brett's ever come back with something worse from those experiences. So it's, I think I've told him before, I don't know if I actually have said this to you before, Brett, or not, that like, I would never ask for something that I didn't think you could do. Which I don't know if you sense that or not, but like for me, it's like really exciting to be like, well, how far can we push Brett this week?
I'm like a racehorse, basically. I'm a racehorse. Just how far can we push him?
Actually, here's the thing. I don't want to make you feel objectified, but actually, I think it's a good analogy. I really do. Because what we're asking you to do week in and week out is pretty insane. And so I really just try to, as much as possible, and I was working a full-time job most of my time out here in California, so I was a little limited. But as much as possible, I wanted to make sure that we were able to give Brett the space to think and to feel and to be upset and to come back and to revise. And I think that those shows, I'm really happy with this week's show, for example, on Questions. I think it's one of our best ones. And it came through a process of just like sitting in it and coping and then coming back to the table and in a very short amount of time. So, props to Brett.
So in the last couple of times I went to say something, you guys were already on something, so I paused. So sorry for the dead air. So Brett, you said something earlier that triggered. I wanted to ask about it because I think it's brilliant because you said, I'm really glad that Nick lets me have my reaction. Like, it's not just about, going and accepting it and coming back. The collaboration there is, if it bugged you, you're going to feel something and say something, but it's important for that other partner to let you have that reaction. That was brilliant.
Yeah, I mean, I've said this a few times. I mean, I literally, like, this week I did it again. I'm like right in front of him. I'm like, you just sit there and you say, how about if we do this? Like, it's no big deal. But how about we do this? Means that the last hour I spent writing that goes to waste, and I have to go spend 2 other hours figuring it out. Like, that's how I feel in the moment. But like, he was, I don't want to say right or wrong, but it was better. What he asked me to do was so much better. And if he didn't, we would have had a B- show, and instead we have an A+ show. So, and I knew that in the moment, but I think what's nice is Nick creates a space where I now feel like I can just let that out.
Yeah. I don't know if there's like race cars going by Nick or something.
Yeah, I've moved from the beach and now racing along the Pacific Coast Highway. That's what I've done. I'm really trying to find a quiet spot. For anyone who's listening,
I was going to say,
know that audio quality is my number one concern.
Right, I know.
This is driving me crazy.
I wanted to thank you guys for saving all the production value for your own show and then coming in.
Hey, I'm on a really nice mic. I don't know what that joker's doing over there, but
I had a huge plan, but the construction crew wouldn't let me do it.
That's all good, man. Nobody expects high quality from the Word Slinger podcast, so you're all good.
The quality's in the content.
That's right.
That's right.
You're coming for the content. So, you guys, I mean, I like what you're saying because basically there's a dedication to something bigger than just your individual egos and your individual time. Like, that's what that amounts to, right?
Yeah, I think that I think Brett just said it. Like, we're in those moments of revision, for example. Like, I'm really thinking of the podcast, and I do. It may sound pretentious, it may not, whatever. But I think anytime someone sits down to do something, it's an act of creation.
Yeah.
And you have to think of it as a creative act that is art. And so if you think of it, I'm not saying that like Where There's Smoke is like some high art masterpiece. But what I'm saying is that I think we care for it as if it is.
Yeah.
And so taking that time to sort of like, it's done, you'll know when it's done. And so sometimes the schedule doesn't allow us to do that, but for the most part, yeah, really taking a step back and saying, I really like this. I've just spent an hour and a half on this, and I've done it in edits too. And I've just been like, nope. The opening of the questions episode, I probably spent 90 minutes trying to find a Jeopardy clip. Brett knows what I'm talking about. Because he vetoed a clip I had suggested. And in the end, it worked out. It was like, I had to go through my own process of just knowing there was no other option.
Yeah.
Just so that when I listen back, I could go like, that was it. I don't have to wonder like, is there something else? Although I will say, I kind of wonder if there was something else, but that's okay.
So those sound clips, are you guys using those under like fair use or something? I mean,
can we edit this out? Oh,
yeah,
is there an editor? Editor.
Don't worry, man. Nobody listens to this show.
That's what Brett and I actually have. We over time we've developed like I don't know, it's unwritten for sure, but it's sort of an understanding of like what constitutes fair use. I believe that since the clips are being used to punctuate and like as an analysis, as a parody, that it's allowed.
Yeah.
So there is a fine line, right? Like you have to be careful.
And I'll just, I mean, I think on that, like I think it is. I made it. I'm joking there, but we care about that. I mean, I made a joke earlier about the gay family and suing Pharrell, and like we're both musicians, we're both artists. Like it especially music, like we're really adamant about the music we use, and like we respect artists, and I do believe we're using this stuff under proper law, and we're certainly
and that's
using.
Why.
I was going to say we're certainly using it with incredibly great intentions. which, I hopefully that matters a little bit. I mean, for example, we had a relatively long clip of Chelsea Peretti, her stand-up in episode 1, and we're like, that's a pretty long clip, and I'm like, yeah, but we're really using it in a cool way, and I tweeted her about it, and like I wanted her to know we were using it, and I kind of thought maybe she'd get a kick out of the fact that we're helping her to be not just a comedian but a self-development guru. Yeah. And I didn't hear back from her, but that's important to me, that like, yeah, we're using this stuff to help the world, and hopefully that matters a little bit too.
That's okay. That cease and desist is on its way. You just keep waiting.
Yeah.
You'll hear from her.
Well, and part of it though, and that's
Chelsea.
actually one of the reasons. It's actually one of the reasons why I think it's so important, even though it nearly kills Brett every week, is to go through and list all the clips we use.
Yeah.
I think that it's important, like, so that we didn't create these. Someone else did this work here.
Right.
If you want it.
Right.
Kevin, I have a question for you. I've never asked this. Have you ever gone to the show notes and gone, what was that clip?
Not yet. Not yet.
I'm convinced nobody does it. So, because we list the clips for two reasons. One, obviously, is to reference them for respect's sake. Yeah. But I actually think if I listen to the show, I'd be the guy who'd be like, I want to know what the clips are.
Well, and
I don't know if anybody does.
I'll tell you honestly, and I have the same feeling about like my show notes. And the thing is, I don't do that for any show I listen to because I'm always listening on the go. So I can't like exactly pop over while I'm driving or on my bike or whatever.
Well, let's just be clear, Kevin. You can. Don't use the word can't.
It's
probably not the best idea.
Though I am capable, I am loath to do so.
There it is.
So
that's some word slinging right there.
That is some word slinging.
That's some word slinging.
So yeah, no, I they're sort of a necessity just because you got to have that someplace. There's a landing page for that kind of stuff. And I noticed you guys, and I'm gonna go out on a limb here. I think you're using the smart podcast tool, right? Yeah. Which I have not gotten to yet. I like it a lot. I just haven't been able to justify that in my brain yet. But I like the way that thing works because it puts all that information right in one spot. The show notes are there. If someone's actually, I don't know how many people listen from the web,
I don't know either. I mean, I have had people tell me they listen to it on our website, so I think some people do use it. For us, again, going back to what's best for the listener, it's making sure that, I mean, I put every episode on SoundCloud, and each episode gets like 15 listens,
Yeah.
But it's like, okay, those 15 people that are listening to it on SoundCloud, I don't want to abandon them, know?
Yeah.
If you're the one person who looks it up on SoundCloud, or like this week, actually, there was a little bit of a snafu with iTunes in getting the new episode up, not on our end, on their end. So subscribers got it, but if you weren't a subscriber and you went to iTunes, it didn't actually show up until about 2 p.m. And one of my guests went to iTunes in the morning because she wanted to hear the episode. She's on it, and it wasn't there, so she went to our website, and she told me she listened to it on our website. So it's like little stuff like that. I'm like, okay, it's good to have it there, so it's there.
Yeah.
And, you never know, right?
Yeah, more points of access. That's always good, right?
Yeah.
So have you guys figured out a way to monetize the podcast yet?
Well, that's why we're here. Isn't that what this conversation
Sorry
is
to
about?
laugh.
So I've already put the check in the mail.
Are you going to tell us?
Yeah, yes, I will tell you. Soon, the instant I figure it out, I will tell you.
Yeah, I think it's a struggle for us. I mean, it's really hard to monetize a podcast. And, I think for both Brett and I, the show, while we would love to make money, and don't get me wrong, we will try to eventually.
Yeah,
but and only just because of the amount of time it takes. I mean, if it took a quarter of the time it takes to do an episode, I would have no problem doing it as a labor of love. But Brett, how many hours combined do you think we spend on an episode of Where There's Smoke?
Well, people have asked before. I've kind of added up a little bit. I mean, it seems to me that you spend about 8 to 10 hours editing it, and I probably spend it might be more than that, probably, isn't it? Or is that wrong?
Well, look at questions. I mean, it probably was probably close to 15, including interviews.
And it's interesting. Like, if I actually took the hours I spent, maybe I would say it's 12 hours or so. But if you understand the creative process, like, you can't just be creative 12 hours straight. So it's like 25 minutes, 10-minute break. It's like an hour, 15-minute break. So 12 hours of work turns into about 3 days, like where it's kind of all encompassing. So it's a lot of time. But I mean, the good news is for both of us, I think I can say this, we're in flow, right? As far as that concept, like we're doing something we love. So it's not like it doesn't feel laborious.
Right.
But yeah, I think when I think about monetizing it too, Kevin, I don't think about, we want to make money doing the podcast. I think we would love the podcast to pay for itself.
Right. Yeah.
So what's 3 days of our time worth if it could pay for itself? Then I cannot take that speaking gig. Then I cannot take that gig. Then Nick cannot take that client. And I really think that, there's two ways to directly monetize a podcast, right? One is sponsorships, and two is kind of more of the Patreon route, right? Where people kind of pledge.
That's the
kind
route
of
I've gone.
yeah, like Radiolab does, though in their case it's through public radio. And I don't know, I've been having conversations with people more lately about that, and people have been saying to me, like, I'd give you $5 a month. I love your show. Yeah. I mean, I give $5 a month to Radiolab because I love their show. Like, so I think that I think that our goal is to build something great that people love, and that I think hopefully maybe the people that love it will be like, yeah, if I knew that my $5 a month would help Nick and Brett to keep doing this and have it pay for itself, that's great. And, I think that would be the goal. And obviously the other piece of this is there's residual, so Nick's a podcast editor. So, he's already gotten more attention and potentially better clients through this because it becomes a little bit of a calling card for him.
Yeah.
I'm a speaker, so hopefully this will lead into some opportunities for me to MC and speak. So there's that too. And I don't know, you go back to that. I can't remember who said that quote, but that's like, if you just do good work, then, leave the rest, trust the rest will come. And I think that's why we focus so much on just doing good work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm on board with that. That's kind of the motive behind, because I love my podcast. I mean, and anyone who listens for any length of time figures out pretty quick that, I will do this for free forever, if I can, But I also have a Patreon campaign. Some people do give some cash, which is very handy. It's not enough yet to pay for the time. But like you, I want to find that, if I can get it to pay for itself, that it justifies turning down work elsewhere. So
let me just say, shameless self-promotion, or I'm not sure if it's promotion, but we are building an audience. We do have pretty good numbers right now. Mm-hmm. And I think we also like the fact that I think we're creating something that's cool, that people dig. And so, hey man, if you're out there listening to this show and you work for a company that wants to sponsor a podcast, we're up for that too. I mean, I think we would care who it is. Well, we do care who it is for sure. But it'd be cool to have a cool sponsor that's doing something really awesome that we know, and I know that, again, I believe our audience would be okay listening to us do something really fun and quirky for 30 seconds to advertise MailChimp or something? Yeah, of course they would, because that means we get to keep doing the show, which is awesome. So,
right.
So we'll figure it out.
I love doing fun ads, as Brett knows.
Yeah.
So I'm actually like,
he just does fun ads for our show right now.
Hey man, every ad on my show is for my stuff. So right now, so I get it. They're not fun. I need to get you to do me some fun ads. So
you can go to podcastmonster.com.
Yes, I'll go check that out. You should too, listeners. So we're getting close to wrapping up, but I wanted to get this question in. Like, how do you market this podcast? How are you getting? Because you guys did phenomenal. Like your first 5 weeks, you just blew it up. So I've been going since September and haven't reached the numbers you guys have. So how are you doing it?
Well, let's just be clear. You don't know our numbers. You have a perception that they're great because you see us on New and Noteworthy.
Okay, all right.
I can tell you that Nick and I have seen a little bit behind the curtain of New and Noteworthy, and I'm not so sure everyone has great numbers.
Yes,
but I think we're doing way better, or we're doing, we've matched our expectations for sure. We're very happy with where the show is so far. I mean, honestly, we've done it all just grassroots. I mean, one of the things that, Nick knows some people in the podcast world, so he, talked to some people. I'm part of Podcast Paradise community and got to talk to people in there. And, one of the things that we uncovered that seems to be very, very true is that the iTunes algorithm really weighs heavily with reviews. So yes, downloads count, but they also really care about ratings and reviews. And so
specifically written reviews.
Yeah, written reviews. So before we launched, I put together a little bit of what I called a launch team, which was about 75 people that I said, look, when we launch, what I want all you guys to do is not only go download all the episodes, but write a review. Now, honestly, about 20 out of those 75 did it, but that's 20 more than would have done it. And, I think we've now got about 115 reviews. I think we hit today, and we've got, 150 ratings or something. And so that really helps. And then just word of mouth. I got to say, I say this to people all the time. For us, like iTunes, New and Noteworthy, unbelievable. What would it cost if you go to iTunes and you click on, say, Society and Culture to put your logo of your show there,
Yeah.
what would that cost? To have it there all day? I don't know, what, $1 billion? You know?
We'll
And
go with
so
that.
the fact that and I don't say this to blow smoke up their butt, but like, bravo to iTunes for supporting art, man. Like, the fact that they have this concept of, hey, we're going to give people the first 8 weeks or so where we're going to basically give them a billboard on the highway.
Yeah.
If they're doing something cool, if they can show us that, if they can create a show and they can show us that people like it and they review it and they can do a little bit of the work, we'll do some of it for them. And every listener we have that we've discovered in random places like Ghana, you know, they've told us, oh, well, I was just on iTunes and I saw you.
Yeah.
So that's been great. And that's about to end for us. And so
Yeah.
that's really scary, because now how do we do it? You know, we've built up obviously a pretty good audience, but now what do we do? How do we...
I think you've got it with just keep creating something that's valuable to the people listening. I think you're on it. So I'm going to be watching you pretty closely, so we'll see how that goes. And I know that Nick's got to wrap up, so I want to go ahead and close this out. I know he's got to get on to some stuff. Brett, you probably do too. You're an important guy. But I wanted to thank you guys, because this is phenomenal, by the way. This has been one of my favorite interviews ever. And I hope we get a chance to chat again very soon. But thanks so much for being on the show with me, man. I love your show. I'm promoting it to all kinds of people, so hopefully I'm not in France or anything, but you know, the Houston crowd might like you. So
hey man, I'll take number one in Houston any day. Number two, right
number two. Yeah, exactly.
Well,
yeah.
Kevin, listen, man, I just want to say super thanks. You know, for interacting with us, having fun, having us on. This is actually the first interview we've ever done together, so this is kind of cool. It's kind of fun.
Cool. I'm glad.
Yeah, Brett usually gets to go off and take all the credit. And so it's nice to be able to come in here and set the record straight.
Yeah.
I write every script. In fact, I'm also hosting it. I just do a great.
You are the nerd god voice of.
And just one more. I don't know. Maybe she likes word slingers too. But true sucker, if you're out there, please let Nick know you're not me. Not me. I did not write that review.
Yeah, actually, that was me. I was going to confess. We'll roll with it. So, all right.
I mean, that counts. That counts, though. At least it's not Brett.
It's another, someone else. There you go, Brad. That's my gift to you, man.
Thank you, brother.
All right, everybody. Thank you for listening in. I hope you enjoyed this as much as I did. You can check these guys out at wherethere'ssmoke.co. That's not .com. So wherethere'ssmoke.co. We didn't even get to that story. We'll have to do that again. Because I want to hear that. You can also go to podcastmonster.com, where you can book the services of one Nick Jaworski and get him to make you sound great on air if you want to start your own podcast. And you can check them out at Brett God, Brett, why are you killing me with your last name, man? Brett Gajda. I don't know why it's so hard. At Brett Gajda on Twitter and at Jaworski Music on Twitter. And you can check them out on Facebook at WTS Pod. I was going to add a .com, but there's no .com there. So go check that out. Those will be in the show notes. Thanks so much, guys, for sitting in with me. And thank you, listeners, for listening. Go rate my podcast and get me. I can't be new and noteworthy, but at least I can kind of start climbing up there. And definitely check out Where There's Smoke, the podcast. That is, frankly, awesome. And we will see you next week. So that was Brett Gajda and Nick Jaworski of the Where There's Smoke podcast, and I hope you enjoyed that. I enjoyed the heck out of it because it was, I don't know, there was a ton of useful information in there if you listen close. I mean, not the least of which was sort of the secret behind how we met, how I met these guys and how we connected. That little trick he used for Twitter is something you could probably use in your own business. Now, here's how I recommend doing that. Go search those hashtags for something related to your topic or your expertise or your business, and find a few folks that seem pretty open and amicable, and people who are kind of fun, have a fun personality, who interact with other people on Twitter maybe, and tag them and do what Brett did. It's okay to send a link, but make sure that you're surrounding that link with some personal communication. And don't just say, hey, I'd like you to listen to my podcast or something along those lines. I'd like you to buy my product. Go actually interact with these people. Go look at their profile. Go find out a little about them. Go check out their blog. Check out their YouTube channel or read through some of their old posts. Retweet some stuff and then, call them out on something. Hey, man, great. I can't, I can neither confirm nor deny that I was wearing pants. And then go from there, because that's how you make a connection with people. Show them you care about them, and then you have a relationship. And relationships are what marketing is all about, believe it or not. So there's that great advice. And we heard a lot about, the ins and outs of producing a podcast and marketing that. So I think that over time we're going to see some growth there. I think that these guys are onto something. I think they're going to have a fantastic run. I'm going to be watching them closely. I'm hoping to stay in close contact with them as they go and see how things turn out. Because I think I'm a fan. I'm a big fan now. So. And hopefully they're a big fan of the Word Slinger podcast, because I could use a few. So while we're still talking, be sure you're checking them out. Go to wherethere'ssmoke.co, and then connect with them on Twitter and Facebook and everywhere else. But please go check them out on iTunes and write that review and give them a rating on their show. I mean, listen to the show. You're gonna love it. I promise you'll love it. If you like NPR, if you like This American Life and Radio Lab and shows like that, you're going to love this show. I promise you. So go check them out, rate them, write a review, and please, while you're there, I would appreciate if you did the same for me. I could use all the reviews I can get, because 0 is not a great number when it comes to this stuff. And here's the sad thing. This is the sad truth. I have this service I use that tracks the number of reviews I get on my podcast, and I never get any reviews. So when I get emails from this service, it's always like, sad face. So go check that out, please. Leave me a review, give me a rating, and spread the word, not just on my podcast, but on Where There's Smoke. Go out and, fill your interwebs with references and get people listening. Because if you like the show, if you find any value in the show, that's really helpful to me. I'm stupid grateful for that kind of thing. So please go do that. Go check out wordslingerpodcast.com for all the ins and outs and the ups and downs and the lefts and rights of the Wordslinger world. You can check out my blog. Right now I'm doing a whole series on experts. I'm sort of doing a deep dive into expertise and authority. And it's kind of controversial. It's more controversial than I would have thought. There is a group of people out there who really believe that, the kind of thing that I do is damaging to the world. I mean, that encouraging people to be experts. Now, they've got it wrong. I'm going to be honest. I'm not going to fight this battle right here in this podcast, but their viewpoint is that I'm telling people to go lie to the world, claim expertise they don't have and deep knowledge they don't have. But I cannot get this particular person, I cannot pin them down on a definition of expert in their opinion or in their mind. And everything they tell me is so arbitrary, and it's just not, there's nothing concrete and definitive. And to be honest, expertise is a relative thing. It's this thing that, you're recognized as an expert by your peers or by the outside world, or, that's called attributed expertise. Or you just, that you are an expert and you use your expertise and your knowledge in your work, and that's autonomous expertise. And that's basically what it shakes down to. And this guy can deny it all he wants, but that's what the reality is. So go check it out. I'm not trying to start a war here, but I am trying to explore that topic in depth. And you can read the posts that are ongoing with that on my blog at kevintumlinson.com. If you go to wordslingerpodcast.com, it's the same page. I go to a landing page there, so you click on blog up in the menu, and you can read back posts. So the current stuff that's up there. And if you're having trouble finding that, do a category search on questioning authority. That's the name of the series. So there'll probably be a link. I need to make a more permanent link somewhere. Anyway, checking that out. Go check that out. Thank you so much for your support, for your help, for tuning in every week. And please go check out Where There's Smoke on iTunes. Rate that show and take care of yourselves. And if you have questions for this show, you can call me at 281-809-WORD. That's 281-809-9673. Leave me a voicemail, and I'll be happy to answer that on air. And you can do the same thing from wordslingerpodcast.com by using the speak pipe button on the right-hand side of the screen. So Take care, everybody. We'll see you next week. And I hope that you are on fire for something. Not literally. Don't burn yourself up. I hope that you're on fire for something and learning something and growing in something. And I hope that you are living the kind of life you want to live. If not, talk to you. See you next week.
Word Slinger.